Welcome back to Be You and Be Real, to the next chapter. We're actually in chapter 3 for this show, and I'm really excited because a very good friend of mine, Jake Dixon, is going to be sharing a chapter with us today. And the chapter is titled this. This is chapter 3, and it's titled "The Vision versus the View. Do It Anyways." So I hope you're ready to dive into a chapter and learn some great lessons along the way. So here we go. Let me cue up the music and we'll get started. Welcome to the Be You and Be Real podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Daniel, and I'm excited that you're here because I want to help people tell their story. Because if you don't tell your story, no one else will. So we're going to jump in and have real conversation with extraordinary people. Let's open the next chapter of the Be You and Be Real podcast. Well, welcome to the show, Jake Dixon. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so good. Thank you for coming on the show and being one of my early adopters, the early people to open a chapter of your life and share it with the world. So I commend you and thank you for that. So first, before we get started, I want to allow the world to know how awesome of a human being you are. So can you introduce yourself before we jump into your full story?
Well, geez, I don't know how awesome I am, but yeah, man, I appreciate you having me first off. And so guys, my name is Jake Dixon. I'm the founder of the Locker Room Real Estate Coaching and Training Company, actually partner with some amazing, incredible human beings like Nathan to focus on our mission, which is frankly to transform an industry and really take a stance for the underserved, the agents who are currently selling 24 or fewer homes per year, which represents 97% of the National Association of Realtors. And so, we provide a lot of solutions to the brokerages out there. So that way, all of their agents within that organization have full-blown access to the tools and resources that we continue to create.
Yeah, it's awesome. Amazing organization. I'm so proud to be a part of it. And it's making waves. It's making splashes. So interesting story. Maybe we can come back and talk about this. But, parent company. What's the name of your parent company?
Oh, Cannonball Ventures.
Cannonball Ventures. Yeah, right. So that's a whole nother story. I may have you come back for that.
That would be another good story. Yeah, it's symbolic in nature. I'm not some war hero or anything, but it does. It's symbolic. It means something.
Well, that's cool. So tell me real quick too. Now you're married. You have some beautiful daughters.
Yep. I've got 2 beautiful daughters, Ava, who's 7 at the time, and Adeline, who's 6. My wife, Carissa, we're actually approaching our 10-year anniversary. So it's amazing. And life is good, man. We've got our home that I've always envisioned being on a lake. Like, I'm a simple dude. I don't need all the stuff. But the one non-negotiable for me was someday I would own that lakefront property. And so we're here in Wisconsin and enjoying life, man.
That is so awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you here. And are you ready to open this chapter?
I am ready, my friend.
All right, so let's do it. All right, so let's start back at the beginning. Okay, so if you had one story to share, one message to share with the world, if there was a moment in your life that you could open a chapter and make sure everybody knew about, tell me about that experience and what would that be?
Sure. Well, there's a reason the title I chose was The Vision versus the View, right? Do it anyways. Because I believe there's a difference and we need to acknowledge that difference. The vision is what we see ahead, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're in business or whatever, even if you're just a normal Joe, whatever, it doesn't matter. We all have a vision of what our life should and could look like. And that being very different from the view. The view captures the present. It's what I see right now. Whereas the vision is what I see for myself in the future, right? And so my story here, the chapter that I want to unfold is just about doing it anyway, overcoming challenges, overcoming obstacles. And look, my story is no different. Before we deep dive into this, I'm not special. I haven't had to overcome way bigger challenges that I know a lot of your listeners and viewers probably have, whether it be the loss of a loved one, going into war overseas. That's not me. So this is just some impactful moments in my life as patterns began to emerge, and just sharing that with some of your audience today.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's exactly you're on point, and the whole reason for this show, it talks about it in the intro is to just be real, right? Be you and be real, and so I'm excited to hear some of these patterns. Like, let's start back at the beginning. Do you mind sharing where it all began?
Yeah, man. So I'll sprinkle some trends here. So without getting in the full blown story of it all, we look back on our lives, and if you haven't, I encourage you to journal, talk with a friend, talk with a coach, any one of us, right? And so for me, one of my defining moments that became a pattern was my sophomore year of high school, where, make a long story short, our high school baseball coach took us in the gymnasium after a rainout delay. And he proceeded to yell and scream at all of us of what a poor job we were doing. It doesn't matter what he was saying. But the one thing that did matter, and he doesn't probably remember he said this, was in front of all of my teammates, he embarrassed me because he stuck his finger right in my face. And he said, "None of you will ever see the inside of a college or professional stadium unless you buy a ticket." And that was a defining moment in my life, because I found out that I've got this internal flame to not just play with a chip on my shoulder and prove people wrong, but now to be a beacon of hope and inspiration to other people, never being that guy who says somebody can't do something. Because as the story unfolds, I saw a lot of badass stadiums firsthand, playing in them, because I played college and professional baseball, as you know, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things like, haha, na 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 boo boo in your face, I did it. But boy, at a time in those formidable years when you're easily influenced, I could have said, you know what, you're right. I'm from a town of 700 people. All these 5 small towns in the area come together to form one high school with 200 kids in it, 50 in my graduating class. Like, dude, nobody goes and does anything athletically. What you do is you farm
Yeah.
in the sticks of Illinois. So that was defining moment number one, is just really overcoming odds and drowning out the noise and opinions of other people, and learning that just because somebody gave up on their dream doesn't give them permission to talk you out of yours.
Ooh, that's good.
Right. So that was one of those moments. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Well, before you do that, so what I heard you say there was that you oh my gosh, like in a coaching moment. And if you're a coach out there and you do something like this, like especially if you're high school level, like listen to that story, and I hope you're taking something away. You left with a chip on your shoulder out of high school, and from
I'm
that
6'6", Nathan. Like I was really good at all sports, basketball, you name it. And in that moment, I left a lot out of the story. I stopped playing any other sport. Now, if kids are out there listening, I'm not recommending you do that. But that fire in my belly, I'm like, all right, you know what?
Yeah.
I could go right, I could go left. And I'm going to put all that I have in the sport of baseball 24/7, 365. And sure enough, my senior year, there was not a game where I didn't have at least a dozen pro scouts there watching me play. 26 colleges that offered me a scholarship to come play at their college. And it could have turned out very differently, but through hard work, and I think the determination of it, not staying inside playing video games, but being outside practicing my craft, we did it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I know it was probably a hard moment in time and a hard pill to swallow, but you spun it, and you spun it in a good way, and it led to some amazing story and an amazing journey. But let's go to the next step. This is a pattern. So talk about the next step in the pattern.
So skipping over a lot of things, the next step I would say is more recent in time, and that is back in 2015, which is really where I began to understand stories like that from my past and how I can apply it to the present and future. And that's frankly a large reason why I'm here today with the Locker Room and being in business with people like you. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it goes back to 2015 when I was a CEO for a large real estate office, very profitable real estate office. And after doing that for 3 years, kind of self-discovered, you know what, this isn't what it's about for me. There's got to be something more. This is a great paycheck. I can keep doing this, but man, nothing lights me up versus when I sit across the desk, helping an individual agent grow, understand, impact, whatever, with their business. And so I made the call to become a real estate coach. By the way, I've sold one home in my entire career. Okay. And at the time I had to take this assessment that would say whether or not I'm going to be a good coach. And I scored a 0.52 medium fit on this assessment. So now you're starting to see odds are stacked against me again. Well, it didn't stop there, because I approached my local office leadership and said, hey, I think this is what I'd like to do. There's an opening in the office for it. Can I interview? Never once was offered the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I then, I will not name names, reached out to 3 very well-known, very prominent real estate coaching and training organizations. Denied. So that's 4 denials because I'm not good enough. I didn't have enough experience according to them. And so what's a guy to do? Well, I had a friend down in Fort Mill, South Carolina, who ended up giving me a shot despite all of that. And fast forward, within our first 6 months, we were the #1 PC productivity coaching program in the country within this particular organization. A year in, we had generated over $1 million of company revenue to this office, and we were lighting the world on fire. And through that journey, we had duplicated what is now the locker room. So we had deliverables and testimonials that nobody could ever take away. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about pointing to the evidence of success of others. And that was a huge, huge turning point and defining moment, as you know, Nathan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And following you on that journey and watching from a distance when all that began. I know it was challenging behind the scenes. Again, another chapter, but behind the scenes, like, I'm sure it was, there were ups and downs and highs and lows and everything else along the way. But one thing that I heard with that point just then was something you mentioned earlier about your dream, right? Don't let other people tell your dream is not good enough, right? And you had 4, you said 4 no's?
4 no's, yeah.
So 4 no's. 4 no's, and it finally, you just kept going. I mean, how many times do we hear people that, well, I mean, I go back to Edison and all those people that try, fail, but they never give up on their dream and they go for it.
Well, and to that, you're exactly right. Because I mean, I was clear on what I wanted to do. And when I get like that, man, I'm a persistent son of a gun.
Yeah.
And I don't stop until I get it. Now that sounds a little arrogant maybe, but that's the personality that I have. And I don't come out on top every time, trust me. Okay.
No.
But what I learned through that is when you stay true to yourself, when you just listen to that inner voice, that tap on the shoulder, maybe it's a spiritual belief and moments of prayer, there's something in you that screams you're made to do more. Mm-hmm. And are you going to answer that call, or are you going to let it go to voicemail? Well, I chose to answer that call. And yeah, I'm okay hearing no. And maybe it saved me so much headache in the end. And there's a reason in that moment that happened. But as long as you don't stop and you continue to persist and put yourself out there, even when it's not popular and you're going to get a lot of haters along the way, you do it anyways and you answer the call. And you're right, Nathan. I mean, we had to overcome. Now that you do something of significance and the spotlight's on you, like, oh, who's this Jake guy and what is he doing over here? Mm-hmm. The amount of stuff we had to overcome through what I call politics and just different things like that was nothing short of incredible to thread that needle and get away with what we were doing at that time, to be able to sit here and talk to you to this day. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget that stuff. That's the roots of where it all began. So I'm just grateful, and looking back, it makes a lot of sense now, and I'm better off because of it.
Well, if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is in those points, in those moments that we just talked about, because a lot of, whether it's a chip on the shoulder or whatever, like the drive, all that stuff. Can we talk about the emotional side of it for just a minute, right?
Yeah.
So how are you feeling? Like what were you going through mentally inside during those times?
I'd be lying to you if it was always this just competitive guy that's going to grind and make it happen, man. There was a mixed bag of emotions, and life was not great for a solid 1.5 to 2 years because of all of that whirlwind and noise around us. Like I'm a simple dude. I don't ask for much. I just want to help a lot of people. I know that sounds cliche, get what they want. So then my family and I can get what it is we want. Like that's the perfect definition, right? Mm-hmm. But there was just confusion, frustration, anger, excitement. It was just a mixed bag of emotions. And there were so many countless nights of lost sleep and worry and not knowing what's going to happen next. Am I putting my family in a position of danger? Here we go, moving for the third time in a year. Like all this stuff, I began to feel a little guilty. And I remember having conversations with my wife. God love her. She's always been supportive of me, but just real conversations like, Jake, is this worth it? Are you chasing a pipe dream? Or maybe we were just fine and dandy doing the safe and steady and consistent thing with a job. And I don't know, man, just continuing to chase and pursue and believing in myself, believing in the small group of people that believed in me, that I chose to surround with. That's what pulled us through.
So surrounding yourself by supportive people.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound at all dramatic, but at the time for me, my experience of it was just this whirlwind of emotion, man. And that is a huge lesson, is who you surround yourself with matters. Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be haters. If you're doing anything of significance, it's going to begin to make people feel a little insecure around you. And then you're surrounded by a bunch of keyboard warriors who nip at your heels and pull you back. Or it's that small, tight-knit group of people who say, Jake, you got this. Mm-hmm. I believe in you. That pull you through. Sometimes they push you through, whatever the case may be. But it is so critical to have that group of people around you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are so many lessons that I'm taking away from today. But if you were to look back at these points and everything in this story, in this chapter of your life that you've gone through, what's some of the lessons, right? I mean, in your recap, what would you say some of the lessons are?
I'll go back to what I said kind of at the start, is have a vision.
Okay.
I mean, actually have a vision. It's so compelling for your future that you are convicted, you are obsessed with it, right? I don't mean just an idea. I'm talking about a real crystal clear vision. I think that's number one. Having that attitude of doing it anyways, that chip on your shoulder, like we keep referencing, of, hey, you're about to go into the field of battle. You're going to, listen to me, you're going to have people that doubt you and are skeptical and are hating on you. And that's a sign. That's one of the leading indicators that you're doing the right thing and you're on the right path. Don't shy away from it. Now just armor yourself with the right group of people, your own personal board of directors that protects you and loves on you and encourages you during those times. I'm telling you, if you just do that, whoever's listening to this right now, you've won the battle. It's just a matter of time, because the only other thing I'd tell you is remain persistent.
Yeah. Well, and I love a quote, like you actually put this in, and I wanted to put this in here and I dropped it in so everybody could see it. It says, never sacrificing who you are and the belief in yourself to do something great, even when others say it can't be done. And that is a quote by Mr. Jake Dixon himself. So I love that. That is amazing.
Yeah. It's staying true to yourself, believe in your mission, believe in your vision, and don't stop. You're gonna win. I can't promise you if it's today, tomorrow, a year from now, 10 years from now, but I believe making the next right choice, applying time on task over time, it is inevitable. You will have everything you want in this world.
Well, Jake, I love this. There's so many lessons to unpack out of this chapter, and thank you for going internal and telling your story. Because one thing I say a lot is if you don't tell your story, no one else will. So thank you for going internal and identifying these lessons that you shared with us today. I do love the title. Everybody, if you're just tuning in and you're just wanting to know who's the guy speaking to us today, it's Jake Dixon. And the title of his chapter is The Vision versus the View. Do it anyway. Yeah. So Jake, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you. And maybe we'll have you back in the future for future chapters. How about that?
I would love to be. I will be a follower and listener and viewer, of course, and go out there and be you and be real, everybody. Keep following this guy. He's a mover and a shaker.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you again, Jake, for coming on the show. It's been awesome. We have some amazing guests lined up to open up the next chapters of the Be You and Be Real podcast. So tune in. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review, right? We would love that as we're launching as many 5-star reviews as we can get and feedback as we're doing this. We would absolutely appreciate it. So again, thank you. I'm Nathan Daniel. See you in the next chapter. Well, thank you for tuning in to this chapter of the Be You and Be Real podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. If you or someone you know is looking to share your story, go to beyoubandbereal.com to inquire how to become a guest on the show. Until next time, live your life on purpose. Be you and be real. We'll see you in the next chapter.